Welcome back. It's another episode of the Audionals show. Exciting week this week. But just going to start out by playing some music that just came out in the last 24 hours. Some very special music that not only lives on Bitcoin, but was created on Bitcoin. So let's have a little listen and then we'll carry on.
Based, based, B one, B based, 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 B one, B based, based, B based, B one, B based, 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 B one, B based, based.
Oh, yes, so there you go. Very exciting times to be even able to play this. I think this must be the 20th episode of the show or something. That's it. And when we did, I think 18 shows of the previous show before that. So, this Audionals show has been running for a long time, and I knew at some point we'd get to this point where I would be able to play a song directly from an ordinal, just to sort of prove that this is a viable use case. We can not only produce music on chain and benefit from all the the attribution benefits that are obvious with working in an on-chain environment where everything is part of a ledger of events. It's just amazing. I'm just really so happy to be part of it. But yeah, it's in fact, what I was getting to say was, not only is it benefiting from the attribution, but we can also distribute on chain because we're finding cheaper and cheaper ways to do really clever things. And this idea of transferring an entire production suite on chain might have seemed a bit far-fetched a year ago when I first proposed it, but this, I think, is the proof is in the pudding, if you like, that it's viable. The cost of these players, if I was to distribute these, they're very small files, so there's some real practicality there when you're able to produce your music in a player that is only a half a kilobyte in size. So even with the when the fees go up, it doesn't become inordinately expensive to produce. Certainly, when you consider that the half kilobyte is not necessarily directly linking to the song. This is a player. This is recursively pulling all of these elements together, and so the same half a kilobyte player file doesn't have to just hold one song. It can hold an anthology. It could hold several albums, all in the same sized player. So even when prices get really, really high, the current raw price for making the player right now is probably, I think I looked it up today, it was 38 cents. So, to be able to distribute your music and have that be your overhead is going to mean a lot to a lot of musicians who really need a bit of a leg up these days. But so credit to the Obi-Wan collection, because these guys have been just doing some insane things with the amount of money they've been spending on high quality audio, because that's really what makes all of this possible. I said in some tweets earlier that this file was had no compression. It's not even an MP3. It's using WAV quality audio in its elements, and so when I make a recording of that as a WAV, it's close to 40 megabytes, and if I then compress it to an MP3, it's 3.5 megabytes, and I then tried to use variable bitrate reduction to get it down to ordinal size. I got it down to around 500 kilobytes, and you could really hear how it has sort of torn it apart. But these are the top level quality because we're using a wave, high resolution wave audio sample for the kick drum and the snare drum and the hi-hat and the clap and the synth. All of these parts are all recorded in the highest quality audio, and so when we recursively bring them together, naturally we're just maintaining that level of high resolution audio. In fact, in the real world, we're used to having to, a lot of certainly dance musicians, if you're EDM producers, we work completely in the digital domain. So in fact, we're bridging a gap, and in fact doing something very inefficient when we mix down our songs. Certainly when you consider a lot of even the mastering processes are often these days taking place purely in a digital environment. And so the only reason we've got this handoff out of the digital environment is because that's how we operate. That's how the music is distributed. All the things that all these businesses are all centered around: the broadcast, the distribution, the syncs, advertising, all of it. It's all tied to having to pass your music, take it out of the safety of the digital domain. Not that the old digital domain was safe. That's just the internet. There was no real ownership here. But this digital domain, this is the digital domain where it's going to become really apparent that all you're doing is weakening the system by even attempting to distribute outside of the chain environment. Once we're able to get platforms more than what I've built with Audionals, but real get platforms that can grow. I mean, Audionals has been built as a seed for other people to build on top of. That's really the idea, is that we can all build this together. It's all open source. It's designed to with an attempt to be as modular as possible. So in the age of ChatGPT, and don't forget that with the Obi-Wan number 11 in the collection, that was inscribed with the 384 kilobyte tone.js library, as well as its art and its sound and its interactivity, the ability to loop its own sound and everything. That artwork contains literal building. It's the capital, it's the tools, it's the elements that we're going to need to build in the future are held in that little library. I inscribed a synthesizer, I don't know, maybe 9 months ago. It took me a long time to build it from scratch. because I didn't have access to these libraries. And then the other day I decided to just have a little play with the tone.js library. Obviously I had avoided using libraries because you can't use a library unless it's on chain. You can't access it. Once if you build something using a library and then inscribe it, it can't see the library from chain. So I got used to working that way, but the other day I tried to create a synth, and it was unbelievably easy. I thought what I might do some point, I'll do it during a stream, take people into GPT and just show you how easy it is just to go into ChatGPT. Doesn't even need to be GPT-4. Just go into the ChatGPT-3 and say, using the library is the important thing. With use of the library, build this. In fact, maybe three can't see the library, or I don't know. I think its training did actually go past seeing the tone.js library, so it probably does know that exists. But it's unbelievable. It was I think about 5 lines of code gave me a model that I could see, a keyboard with keys. This was again something I'd spent days trying to build myself, so that my synth had a sort of a UI that was kind of friendly enough to play, have keys that looked the right shape and the right size and all of this. And then just with the library, that's all kind of built in. You just sort of say, give me a new synth, and it goes, here's your synth. How do you want it to sound? And then you can start asking for oscillators, asking for sounds. You can even just say, I like the sound of this synth with these settings on, and it will do a really good job. And especially with the library, it's not big code. The AI does not need to do a huge amount of work itself. It's really simple. And so the more I think people kind of see this and start building their own devices that can work in here, we can really start seeing where this goes, that it will just turn into a completely decentralized single domain music production landscape and music distribution landscape and fair royalty payment environment for all musicians. And so I'm super excited that we've kind of got to this point now where the case has kind of been proven. In fact, I wanted to show you something else. There was something else, I wanted to thank Melophonic for the mix for that one. I've done my own version of another song, which I was going to bring up here. Is this it? Yeah, this is one that I did on the sequencer a couple of weeks ago, and I was really hoping I get the opportunity to inscribe it, and I was going to open up into the full screen here so you can appreciate the visualizer by Squeezy, which is a pretty incredible piece of engineering itself. It also is an old inscription, I think around the 1 million mark, or maybe before. This model was inscribed again without libraries. It was an attempt at 3D modeling without using the libraries that weren't available at the time. So it's really nice to kind of resurrect it in this way. But it's super cool because of the fact that it's generative as well. So it will, I think there's something like 1 quadrillion seeds in this current version, and there'll be even more in the next. So you never know what you're going to get. But obviously I've kind of handpicked, I went through a lot of seeds to kind of handpick some that I liked for these first few. But yeah, it's worth noting that it's kind of just going to be producing one of ones. But yeah, let's have a listen and watch of this one.
Freedom to Transact by Ash Lightstone. The freedom to transact is the freedom to be. It means I don't need your permission to do as I please and just be me. It's a freedom that we should all have, without any conditions we have no say in. There shouldn't be any strings attached or any rhetoric about it being a sin. It's a freedom that allows us all to be equal in a manner that is profoundly meaningful. And for that reason, they tell us it's dangerous. They say there's no way for it to be purposeful. When others don't want us to have this freedom, we have to stop and ask why. We have to ultimately see that it's about control, and that their so-called protection is a lie. This is the ultimate freedom, the most significant one. All others are built on top of this, and without this, no other freedoms can be won. Freedom to transact. 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 Freedom to transact.
Yeah, so there you go. That one is actually utilizing a piece of existing audio. It's the backing track is all using the OB1s, but the vocal is an early inscription. I can't remember what number it is. It's in the early. It's possibly sub 1000. That Freedom to Transact by Ash Lightyear, and it's Lightstone. Sorry, not Lightyear. But that's something that you can do within the Audional sequencer. Is you can go and find any piece of existing audio, whether it's a drum beat, a single hit, a word, or an entire song that you want to play over the top of or add things on top of. You can go and find that audio, pull it into the sequencer, trim it down, and then you can then reproduce that as a new inscription where you've now recycled a small part of another song into something new. Something else that
Freedom to transact.
that I've added to these guys,
Freedom to transact.
triggering it was so we've got some additional plugins that have been built into the OB1s, which I should show you actually. Let me just go and find them, because for those who haven't maybe seen any previous shows, the OB1 collection is really special, not just because it's using all providing all these amazing high resolution files for us to use, but it's also showing off some really incredible technology in the collection. So if you can see it here now. So this is the OB1 collection. So each of these artworks is embedded within the actual artwork. Inside the inscription is this audio, as well as some inbuilt digital audio workstation type utilities built into each one. This isn't recursive. There's nothing recursive here. Each one of these has its own audio in the actual inscription. It's all in a single inscription. So for example, here we've got the synth, and it's not only this beautiful, amazing artwork, which there's a lot more of these to come. They're absolutely fantastic art, but behind this is this instrument. This one is the synthesizer, but if I click it, it's got a built-in timing mechanism, so it can put itself into a loop. They are set to a default of 78 BPM because they are all, as you can see here, they're all inscribed on block 78 sats. In fact, is it these ones? Some of them, I think they've even, the OB1 team decided to inscribe them not only on block 78 sats, but I think at least one of the extra based one, which might be number 10. I think 10, 20, 30 will be these extra based ones. I think it's inscribed on a block 78 palindrome, and that it is padded with a palindromic number of block 78 sats. I think 7,887 block 78 sats padding a block 78 palindrome sat, which is very creative. and super cool if you're into sat hunting. But anyway, let me show you what this does. So you can see it's just set itself into a loop there, and not only is this a very stable loop, I've had songs, I've left them playing overnight and come back in the morning to a mix that still works, but this is across tabs. So I can go back to the collection page and I could go and grab, say, the hi-hat. And so here's the hi-hat, and I can set that into the same loop. But not only that, because we've got these inbuilt controls within each one, and just bear in mind, there's no platform here. I'm not working in an arrangement window. I'm just working on ord.io between different tabs. But I can now also add some controls where I might, for example, I might want to increase the scheduling of one of these instruments. I might want to turn it down a bit. And I can go back and find another instrument. Maybe we'll go for this one's the special one. I really love this one because this is number 11, which contains the tone.js library. This is the inscription that you would send a request to say, I need to build a synthesizer, give me the tone.js library please, if you're creating a synth on chain. I can also pitch it. And then we've got some other lovely ones. The 808. Oh, I see. I've got to go to an actual collection page here, I guess, have I? Because I can't actually see them all. Let me see. Okay, so this isn't actually the page I thought it was. There we... No. Oh, how am I supposed to find the other... That's weird. I thought that would take me to a collection page, but it seems to be taking me just to the OB1 wallet. Oh well, I'll go for a different instrument then. I could go on like this for a long time. Just trying to show you the tech there. Anyway, it's super cool. And like I said, with the pitch in here, we can obviously create different notes. So I can actually take just these OB1s and kind of create a live set that is basically just existing in a load of tabs, where I've got each one set up to, you know, play at the right time. It's a lot of fun, but that's just, you know, that's completely outside of the bounds of any arrangement window, any platform. You know, you want decentralized. That's about as decentralized as it gets, but it's not terribly convenient. Sometimes it's fun and it's very cool that you can do it outside of any application. But, you know, for example, things like changing the BPM, you know, if you're in one of these and you've got you can change the BPM, which I've got to remember the key combination. I think it's, yeah, so I can change the BPM like this. But of course, if I've got a whole song in here, I have to go through every single tab to change the BPM. So actually having a platform that kind of does all of that for you is handy. And so that's why I created the AudSPD to host these OB1s and other audio files that can be pulled in and resynced. So we could take this and we could change the BPM, and you see it's now changed the BPM for all of these instruments. So inadvertently changed the BPM there. Anyway, I'm getting carried away as per usual. So there you go. So that's the AudSPD, which you can. This is quite good fun. You press the random button. It's just going to randomly fill it with an assortment of OB1s. It'll change it every time you hit the random mix button. It will also give them all different settings, and so they'll all be on the same tempo. So again, if I was to change the tempo here, they'll all be set to that tempo, but then some of them will be super fast. You can see we've got some that are set to be very fast here, some that are slower, but it should also change the pitch. There you go. Again, right, yeah, that's a lot of fun. That also works on iPads, iPhones. It's really, kind of cool to kind of play with when you're bored. It's a bit of an annoying UI on the iPhones and the iPads, so that needs a bit of updating for that. But the fact that it works on mobile is something that is super cool, because back when I inscribed the first sequencer, probably around a year ago, I guess, it didn't work on mobile. The sound, I don't know if it was the way that I had sort of structured it, but it worked beautifully on desktop, but with mobile it didn't. And then when I built the new sequencer, I guess I probably employed more leaning on the audio, the web audio API, but it works beautifully on mobile now, which you'll also see when you look at the B-based inscriptions that were put out yesterday. Those also work really well on mobile, so you can obviously crack your phone out, play it at a party, tell everyone you're playing music directly from the chain, because that's exactly what you're doing, which is super cool. I don't really have a plan at this point. Just going to check if anyone wanted to come and join me to jump in the Discord. It's always nice chatting with people in the Audionals Discord. I guess, yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say is, you know, it's been really great seeing some people have been coming up with some mixes. In fact, is that still linked up there? Let's see. I had a great mix from it doesn't look like it's connected anymore, from Morgufa. Did some really cool mixes that he put on Twitter. No, they're not there. But it's what would really get things kind of going is content. Is just people kind of just doing that, having a jam on the SPD, recording it, sticking it on Twitter. Get into the Audionals Discord, go and follow at Audionals, go and follow ordinal based ones at ordinal based ones, and then get involved in the communities, because this isn't your sort of typical DGen communities. This is something different. It's going to be just as much fun, but it's something genuinely that the people can take a far greater ownership of than they could of any other collections you might have been a part of. This is a foundation collection, I guess you would call it, and it is the tools and materials that are required to begin to build a city. It starts very small. It might sound funny talking about this when you're referring to Tone.js, a 384 kilobyte library, but the power that not only brings in terms of the convenience and the speed that people can develop at, but in this new environment that we're working in, this single domain where everyone is programming kind of on the same hard drive, it is on the same hard drive, that these modular systems can grow like nothing you've seen before. And what sounds like a little 300 kilobyte file is exactly the kind of tools that people need to build an entire collection of audio units, VST plugins, Ableton, Logic, you name it. You can kind of build it now on chain, and let me tell you something else, is that you'd be incredibly surprised at the size of software compared to the size of audio. I mean, you look at the player and the sequencer, the player which is pulling together these commands to play these songs, the player that I showed you earlier, you know, that is it's called programmatic assembly, kind of what's going on there, and effectively it's just a piece of code being executed, and it will always execute the same way forever. And you can add any number of additional pieces into this equation. You can add a synthesizer, you can add all this other stuff, but they're just very small files. The sequencer engine that's driving the player here is 30 kilobytes, and it's pulling together a lot of stuff. That's 16 channels of data, 16 separate tracks, separate audio, separate effects, separate trim values, separate pitches. You know, all these different settings are actually in this tiny file, and that's because, you know, it's been built by one person with very limited, you know, resources, budget. But once we all kind of get involved in this, the level of the level of production could really go up 1,000-fold. Certainly when you imagine actual synth producers seeing what's going on here and realizing that this is not just an opportunity, but a total shift in business model going on. Again, a little bit like when the internet first came, or when iPhones first came out, you know, the idea of microtransactions and not charging people one time, but charging them for their use, or all these things. And all of this suddenly becomes clear to people, I think, when we start seeing songs like this produced and distributed on chain. They're going to realize that this is where they want to be, and it's where we want them, because we all want access to those synths. But then again, instead of having to pay anything, instead of them having to have any model that asks anything of you as a musician, other than to ask the regulators when that song that uses their synth, that they are included as a royalty effectively. You know, we can make this whole royalty system so efficient that actually the people who really need to get paid can get paid, and all the other stuff that was just disappearing in inefficiencies and obfuscated practices, suddenly, you know, the musician can pay all of these people that they want to pay and still earn 5 times more than they were earning in the old world. So the best thing we can do is promote this to everybody, get people using it, get people making music, get people doing live sets. Obviously we've got NFT New York going on. I dare say you'll be hearing the Be Based song out there, because I think a lot of people appreciate this is a major shift in something that is it goes well beyond crypto. This is a real world problem that we're solving right here. So yeah, very, very exciting times. Thank you for joining me. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I think next week, hopefully I'll be back with some more material to play, and lots more to talk about. I think maybe even have some guests. Wouldn't that be exciting? So I might just close out with Be Based, but let's go full screen for this one so you can see the full squizzy geometry in all its glory. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining. Next week I will be back with more, and can't wait to see what the next week has in store for us all. So take care and see you next time.
Based. Based. B1. B. Based. 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 based B1 B based 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 B1 B based